and welcome back to my channel. This is Carly's Growing TBR, A Bookish Life. I'm Carly, and today we are going to talk about some translated books. Some of the best and most interesting novels in the entire world have been translated from other languages and into English. So let's talk about a few of the ones that really stood out to me. Let's dive right in with I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. This book is dystopian, speculative fiction, literary fiction that has been translated from French. We follow an unnamed woman who wakes up and she is in a cage with 39 other women, and she has no idea how she's gotten there. She's the youngest of the group, and they basically have been living there for a very, very long time with no reason why. They are guarded by an all-male cast. None of the men speak to the women. They are on a very weird time schedule so that they are unable to discern if it's daytime, nighttime. It seems like they're in some sort of a bunker, but they are kept pretty well fed and in good health. They just don't understand why they're there. Some of the older women do remember lives prior to the bunker, but it's all very convoluted and fever dream-like, and eventually, due to a series of circumstances, they are able to leave the bunker and have to venture out into this barren desert landscape where they have to learn how to survive. And the youngest woman, our main character, who is again unnamed, is the one that basically narrates this novel. It is extremely interesting. We learn about female friendships and relationships. We learn about misogyny and sexism. Gender roles take a play into this. This is a pretty mixed bag of a novel. Some people really love this. Some people really hate this. You're going to see a lot of mixed reviews on it. I personally found it very intriguing and eye-opening. I feel like this is one of those novels that you cannot just take at surface level. You have to really think about it. You have to really dig. I took my sweet time reading this. I did annotate. I felt like I got a lot out of it that way. I suggest an immersion read on this, which is basically a tandem read of an audiobook in either the ebook or the physical copy. I feel like that really pulled me into the story and allowed me to make a lot of connections because a lot of my senses were focused on this novel at the time of the read. And it was just a really good experience that way. Now, I will say this is a no spoiler review, but the ending is difficult for people. You have to be okay with an open-ended ending, something that will tickle your imagination, force you to think about what could have happened, what will happen, and it is very interesting the way it all unravels and gets put together at the end. So definitely be aware that if you do not like open-ended novels, this might not be for you, but it absolutely was for me, and I really, really enjoyed this. The next book that I want to discuss is The Night Guest. This is translated from Icelandic, and it is very, very interesting. I found this to be a very interesting psychological thriller with some horrific elements to it. You could make an argument that it's horror, but it just fit more psychological thriller with some horror elements for me as I read it. We follow our main character, who is female, who is experiencing some symptoms that she is absolutely baffled by. She goes to numerous doctors, all of which kind of dismiss her. She's a woman, she's anxious, she's hysterical, things of that. So it does touch on some of the unfortunate happenings with women in the medical field, how they're not believed, how so many of their issues are really being written off as women's troubles. And eventually she does ascertain through a series of circumstances that she is not sleeping very well at night. In fact, she is getting up in the middle of the night, unbeknownst to her consciousness, and walking 40 to 50,000 steps at night and losing all of that time. She has no idea why she's doing it. She has no idea what suddenly has changed in her life that is causing her to lose this time, but she has to basically start a complete overview, like trying to figure out what's going on with her. Why is she doing this? Where is she going? What is she doing? And the results that she discovers are not exactly up toward, and she is absolutely floored by what she finds, and honestly so was I. This was amazing. This does have some triggers. I would recommend looking into those if that is something that you would require, but it was really a lot of fun. And again, it's just a novella. It's translated from Icelandic, which was really interesting. The setting and everything was very eerie and wintry, and I really, really enjoyed that about this. So I highly recommend this because it definitely took me on a thrill ride, and I think a lot of people would enjoy this novel. One of my favorites on this list is Earth Eater by Dolores Reyes. This is translated from Spanish. Dolores Reyes is an Argentinian author, and this book combines fantasy, crime thriller, and magical realism into one heck of a novel. It's very short, it's more like a novella, maybe a little longer than a standard novella, but it's really, really, really good. So we follow an unnamed woman who cannot stop eating earth. She lives in an unnamed Argentinian slum with her family, and she eats earth and then sees visions associated with the earth that she consumes. So if someone is kidnapped from a certain place and she eats that earth, she can kind of sense what happened during the kidnapping. And this leads all of the people around her to start bringing her earth to eat to ascertain what's going on with certain crimes that are unsolved in their neighborhood. And at first she is happy to do this, but eventually it does start to wear on her. It does start to wear on her soul and her mind, and she is eventually drawn into an actual crime with the Argentinian police trying to solve a kidnapping. And this novel basically encompasses the following of this young Earth Eater as she tries to decide what she wants to do with her certain gift. And I could not put this down. I read this in like one sitting. It was fantastic. I loved this immensely. It is brutal, and yet you cannot help being endeared to our main character. This novel absolutely encompasses some really great magical realism. It is on the nose magical realism, and it definitely encompasses some real world problems within Argentina, the kidnappings, the missing people, and all that kind of stuff. So it really, really was a fantastic novel, and I highly recommend it. And last but not least, we have Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin. This is translated from Spanish into English. Samantha Schweblin is another Argentinian author currently living in Berlin. And this is probably one of the most relatable novels, not just translated novels, but relatable novels I have ever read in my life. This can probably be interpreted a number of ways, but what really stuck out to me under a magnifying glass was the exploration of parasocial relationships. It felt very relatable into a lot of things that I see specifically on Book Talk, about how people get into these relationships with authors that they've never met and probably never will meet, but since they like their story that they wrote, they will stand 10 toes down defending that author up until the point where they are bullying, harassing, and just basically threatening and other people for not liking the book. And it's insane to me how people can do that. Like, if someone doesn't like a book by an author I loved, okay, cool. Especially if someone is saying that an author or their work is problematic, to sit there and defend it because you liked it is just insane to me. And what's even more insane is this is literary fiction with some horror elements, and it gets very horrific at times. I could absolutely see this happening in real life. Like, I've seen some of this stuff happen in real life on Book Talk. I've almost lost my account on Book Talk numerous times for speaking out against problematic authors, and the fan base comes for me, and I'm just like, this is insane. And I see that happening in these novels, in this novel in particular, and it was an eye-opening experience. This is the kind of novel where at the end you sit there staring at the wall for an obscene amount of time, thinking to yourself, that could happen, and that is utterly terrifying. But yeah, so these are the translated novels I wanted to talk to you about. I just dropped them all. I really, really, really had a great time with all of these, and I highly recommend them all. So if you are interested in reading something translated, give one of these a try.